I'm Josh Byers.
And I'm Jeanie Nickel.
We're doing things a little differently this week for Grande Film Reviews.
Starting now, we'll be reviewing relevant films for this year's Academy Awards.
And we'll be releasing a discussion on an Oscar film every week until the big event itself.
First up, the focus of today's review is Fences, a film adaptation of August Wilson's 1987 Pulitzer Prize-winning drama.
Set in the 1950s, Fences explores the evolving African-American experience and examines race relations, among other themes like family and masculinity.
Let's jump in.
Where, Corey? I want him to help me with this fence.
He got recruited by a college football team.
It ain't gonna get him nowhere.
If he be like you in the sports, he gonna be all right. Ain't but two men ever played baseball good as you.
And what it ever get me? I ain't got a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of.
Hey, Pop, can I ask you a question? How come you ain't never liked me?
What law is there say I got to like you? A man is supposed to take care of his family. You live in my house, fill your belly with my food, put your behind on my bed because you're my son.
Hello everyone, welcome to Grande Film Reviews, and I'm here with Jeanie and Bridger, and we're here to discuss Oscar hopeful Fences. So let's get into it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, to start with, what were your first impressions of the film itself?
Well, I would like to say I guess I was excited to see Fences because it is Oscar season. And I love Oscar season. Like everybody knows, at least all my friends know, there are two seasons in this world that I love, and it is Oscar and football season. And
We're
I'm
fully
so
aware,
pumped.
Josh.
And I am in the middle of both. So, or towards the end of football season. But anyways, yeah, my first impression, I've seen it twice now. I saw it last month, and then I saw it a couple days ago. And when I originally saw it, I enjoyed it quite a bit. And then I saw it a second time, and then I was able to kind of look at it a little bit more and dissect it for this particular, you know, I wanted to enjoy it the first time around because I was so excited for it. It was Fences, you know, August Wilson and all that. But so my initial first impression was good. The second impression, I guess, was
Still decent?
still decent. Yeah,
Yeah.
decent.
But with
yeah.
problems, yeah.
Well, with some issues. Yeah. But yeah, so that's about it in that sense. Yeah.
Like first impressions were pretty much like, and we'll talk about this more, but in the first part of the film, they had a really solid concept, and I was pretty on board because, again, it is Fences, it is August Wilson, it is this very important cultural touchdown. So I was pretty excited to see it anyway, plus, you know, Viola Davis and Denzel Washington. So my very first impression, like starting to watch it, was, yeah, this is good, I'm excited. And as the film went along, it was like, okay, this is good, but it has problems, like you said.
Yeah. Like, as a text, as a piece of our culture, it's clearly the best film I've seen all year. Maybe Swiss Army Man, maybe, depends.
Within
It's
the
a little
past
debatable.
year, because you're, 18 days in 18, 19
Yes,
days.
Josh, for 2016. I'm sorry.
I wasn't even waiting to say that.
Anyways, it's a really good film, but it's only a good film because of the substance, the actual, like, as a film, like, as the medium of film, it was terrible. Like, they didn't know how to shoot that clearly. The editing was really bad. I'll get into that a bit later, but that's not important, because what is important is that at its core, the specific scenario and the specific characters and the writing itself are so important and so good, and they hit these themes that we haven't had a discussion on yet, and that's what's important. Like, that's the point of a film, or of any
Art.
of any piece of our culture, is that it should, be important in some way. And this definitely succeeded in that regard, I'd say.
Cool.
Totally.
Yeah. All right, so like, what did you like about it first?
Yeah.
Well, I'm
talk
going to
about
go
that.
ahead and hit on the thing that I always pay attention to when I watch movies. And you guys, you roll your eyes at me, do it. But I will, it's probably...
The acting.
The acting, yeah. And I mean, I pay attention to other things, but this is the part that I'm probably the most passionate about, Yeah, the acting is probably some of the best acting I've seen in the past year. I mean, admittedly, 2016 had some good acting in it, but Technically, this movie came out in 2016, and I would say how I explain it, and to use baseball as a good reference, Denzel Washington was hitting home runs the entire movie, and then Viola Davis comes in and hits a grand slam. Like, it just, man, it was really good, and they both did a really good job, and I can see how at some points it might have gotten a little over the top, and I can see that, but I didn't have a problem with it being a little
Larger than life.
dramatized. I wouldn't say melodramatic,
It
but
was
dramatized.
definitely a little lionized.
Yeah, I don't have as much of a problem with that because I love, but I'm also an actor, so that's the actor part of me saying like, yeah, you do your
Indulgent part.
thing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally indulging in it. Yeah, so definitely the acting, and then the themes, but I think we'll probably get into the themes a little bit later.
Yeah.
The themes translate back to the script or to the original play anyway. So, yeah. But yeah, Jeannie, what about you?
Let's see. Well, first, again, for me, the things I liked about it kind of were segmented into the first and the second parts of the film. Because what I liked in the first part was the fact that they were kind of going for this really interesting kind of blend of film and theater, where the way they were shooting things, people would kind of walk onto frame, have their conversation, and then walk off, but like in interesting ways that were engaging to the eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see, coming down the alley, that just whole, scene is just interesting, and it's like the first scene, so it made me want to, like, ooh, what's going on? Like, oh, this is cool, setting their environment. And overall, actually, again, I talk about this a lot, but their production design, I felt, as far as, like, was top notch.
Yeah,
Like,
oh, yeah.
I really liked it. I was like, I felt like I was in a 1950s, neighborhood.
Yeah.
And,
In
all the
Pittsburgh,
kids,
like,
yeah, exactly,
yeah.
all the kids running around, and like really good attention to detail with like their technology, like like the refrigerator and stuff. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. It was a great period piece.
Yeah.
that's
No, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I loved the theatricism of it, and that it really did feel like a stage play, and that was cool. Like the thing about all of the characters that August Wilson writes is that while you might not, like, at the end of the day agree with them, they all have these great bits of humanity that you can identify with. Like, even Troy, like, especially at the start of this film, I can strongly identify, and like, not always in good ways, but in ways like, oh gosh, I hope I don't do that. Yeah. And then by the end of the film, there's all the stuff with Corey that's super, like, that. It's very engaging, and it's so human, and I love that about it.
Yeah, and like I said, when we had discussed a little bit before this, each character and I guess each actor had a high point, and they met those peaks, I guess, with what you were just saying. Like, they were able to meet those, and each character kind of stood out for a little bit. Whether it was a scene or a few lines or a part of a scene or whatever. It was cast well because, I mean, it was technically already cast anyway, but that was really good, and so in that sense, yes, like, awesome. But it goes back to the acting too, I guess, too.
All right,
Yeah.
Let's address a couple of things that we thought were a little problematic with the film.
Yeah, yes, it started off very theatrical, and I loved that. And then having discussed a bit afterwards with you guys, I kind of realized that, yeah, it wasn't as consistent in that theme of having an infusion of theater in the movie, in the film, towards the second half of it, or maybe the last third of it, or 2/3, I guess. But and that was what was a little bit of a bummer, because I loved that first third of the movie. Like, it was very well done.
It was the strongest part of it.
Oh, for sure.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And then, yes, it got a little blurred, and towards the end, it was just a little cheesy,
Slow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They definitely indulged themselves in a lot of the performances, and with the camera work.
Yeah, it's almost like in the first part of the film, like, again, they had that solid concept, and then they got worried that people would get bored because there wasn't enough camera movement, and so then they just like
Yeah.
had too much.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of one of those things where, for example, Martin Scorsese's Silence, which hopefully we get a chance to watch that.
Yeah, that'd
that
be
would
cool.
be great, because I'm dying to see that one. But it's Martin Scorsese went into that thinking, this isn't going to make any money. My movie's going to be boring. Cool. now I can focus on actually making a piece of art, not having to worry about it because I'm Martin Scorsese and everybody gives me money. So, yeah, you know, and I feel like that could have been the direction they took. Like, this is not going to be making a lot of money.
Like, this isn't an action
Like
film.
the names are going to bring them in. Denzel Washington and Viola Davis will bring people in, but it may not make a lot of money, you know?
And
So-
aside from the set, actually, that looked like it could have been done pretty cheaply, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then also, like, I wish that they had spent a little more money on things, on, like, an actual editing team. Because there were cuts that didn't make any sense. Like, you would have your focus on the right side of the screen and there wouldn't be any kind of a movement or anything there. It would just cut straight to the left side. And that's so jarring and really disorienting. It wasn't well edited, and that hurts me.
So it sounds like maybe they were trying to make the concept of how the movie was portrayed, I guess, theatrical, but the film work wasn't meeting that, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, it started to, like, again,
started
like at
well.
the beginning it did,
But it wasn't
and then it
consistent, yeah.
fell off.
Yeah, and then the perspective shot where it was just on the baseball and he kept like swinging at it, that was unnecessary
Yeah.
too. Like I would have preferred to have seen it from a bit further away in a more theatrical lens. It felt like it was imposing itself on me a little too much then.
Right, it was obtrusive.
Yeah, it was obtrusive.
Yeah, it was a perspective that we hadn't had the entire movie, and it just seemed really inappropriate. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
And this is a specific shot in the movie, I guess we're talking about, if we might be meandering off. But yes, there's a certain spot in the movie where it just Denzel Washington's in the backyard by himself, and he's hitting a baseball. This movie has lots of references to baseball. His character is a former baseball player, a little bitter about the fact that he's a black man that wasn't able to
Play baseball.
play
at the time.
baseball. But the argument is that he might have started too late in his life. So, yeah. So there's that kind of thing, and that's a pretty good thing, maybe. To talk about, because it brings us into themes and
Yeah.
so
Actually, yeah, let's go.
yeah, so I was kind of thinking about it. Yeah, the themes are great, you know, masculinity and the way that a man has to feel like he has to support his family. But like I said, kind of mentioned, I really just, after thinking about it a little bit, laying in bed last night, I really liked some of the character arcs. You know, like I read the play a very long time ago, and I didn't remember any of it. So having watched it the second time with a little bit more conscious of what I'm absorbing, you know, I really just enjoyed the character arcs, and that goes back to me being an actor, enjoying that. But I just thought that was honestly one of my favorite parts of the movie, or I guess of the script itself, and the story that it tells, I guess. So that was something I enjoyed quite a bit. So.
And I love how in the script, all of those arcs, it goes full circle.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Oh,
it
yeah.
starts with the song and it ends with the song. And that's brilliant writing, how he really is a playwright in that he is not one who tries to write plays, but just like a shipwright, he constructs them, you know, he grabs each piece, each theme, and he builds it and he pieces them all together in this perfect way. He doesn't just try to write them out. It's really this great craft.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's this film and play, but the film, since we're talking about it, it really a lot of people refer to Death as the Salesman as the Great American Tragedy, but I actually think that this film should be should be considered the Great American Tragedy. The idea of working your entire life for something and but barely scraping by, and just feeling trapped, like you are in that rut and you've gotten nowhere your entire life.
And the way that it deals with the masculine role model is stunning. Like
Yes.
that whole time I was like, wow, this is really indicative of the entire era, and B, like it's a thing that we still have to hold on to, that we still have to remember, because that's still in us to this day. That those things still happen, they still exist.
Oh yeah.
Like we're still dealing, we currently are dealing with the idea of like generational divides
Yeah.
of like just completely different ideologies and thought processes and the way, we approach the world. And that's another, a good, a huge theme in the film.
Oh yeah,
is
yeah.
That the times change.
Times
They
change.
I mean, they
specifically
say that, and
Yeah.
they look
Yeah.
right at Denzel Washington's character, who refuses to believe that that's
Yeah.
true, and say times have changed, and everybody else in the film's like, hey, times have changed. Like
We're seeing it,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's like you
so
don't.
good.
I mean, they probably didn't need to say that in the movie, but they just basically throw it at you. And
Yeah.
it's all one of the main films, and the way masculinity is dealt with pretty, masculinity is so fragile,
Yeah.
and so the way that that's dealt with is pretty good. Is pretty good because you see it in Corey, the son, a lot too.
Yeah.
He struggles with it, but also Rose tries to help Troy understand that a little bit more about his son, because he refuses to talk to his son like a normal human being.
Right.
So.
Well, and something I actually, speaking of Rose, that I appreciate is they, like, you don't see it obviously till like later in the film without like spoiling too much, the idea that like Troy is dealing with this whole idea of being in a rut and not knowing what to do, but they also specifically address that so is she. Like, he's been all in his head like, oh, woe is me, like, I have nothing and I just give everything I have to my family and I get nothing. And she turns around, she's like, what do you think I've been doing the last 18 years? Like, I'm doing the exact same thing. And it's nice to actually see somebody address that idea that, the man has to go out and work, in the 50s, of course. Man goes out and works, but the woman, and, he gets time off by going to the bar, hanging out with friends, but she's there all the time, forever. She doesn't, like, when's her, I appreciated that little touch.
It was a good film. Good film.
Yeah, so do we want to kind of, it's about like 17 minutes or so.
Wrap things up a little bit.
Wrap up kind of just final overall impressions.
I would suggest it for the themes. For if you are into something with really good acting, I would suggest this. But if you're wanting, there's a chance you could. The average moviegoer will probably find this boring, to be honest with you. It's slow moving. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes long.
It was a little long.
Yeah,
It was long.
yeah,
That's right.
and it's just that's just how it is. But I'm not trying to stray away from anybody to try to not see it. I just figured I'd fair warn you if you can't sit still. Like, I'm kind of one of those people too, and I did have a hard time sitting through it the second time at least. So just keep that in mind. But it was awesome from certain standpoints. So.
Oh, you want to? Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I, like, overall, like you said, it's, if nothing else, like, while it had a lot of problems with editing, a lot of problems as a film, like, it's an important thing to watch. And I think a lot of the things we've talked about, a lot of the, the theming, really resonates with us still. And I do think if you don't mind, 1950s, a period piece that does get a little slow toward the end, I would definitely recommend it, because I do think it tells a story that we should be talking about. So.
I agree. No, also, I mean, yeah, I completely agree, as you could probably tell from the entire discussion here. It's a good film, and you should see it. It's very engaging, despite the bad editing, the very bad editing. It's very good.
All right, well, thank you for joining us, and tune in next time for continued Oscar coverage. Thank you to Le Grande Live TV for making this happen. Follow them on Facebook and like their content for more local content.